It may have been working last time. It just was not coming through on my end. Now I have to find my channel all over again. There we go. Wolf, you tell me if you see me on. There we go. All right. Hopefully that's good. I don't know why my picture's so blurry or why I look huge in that screen. Let's see if we can fix that. It looks much better on Restream than it does on Rumble for some reason. I don't know why. Um, I'm using my usual settings. Okay, well, weird. Maybe it'll straighten out. You know how Rumble can be odd at times. Anyway, so what I decided to do, Wolf says, what day is it? Do I work today? Did I give anyone a ticket? Tune in to find out if I talk to the bench. So tonight, so what I found out this week was that I'm getting strikes on YouTube and they are taking down my COVID-19 warrior videos, which is why we'll see you, Pope Smokes. COVID-19 warrior won't be going until 9:40. This is tea time, so you go on ahead. So what I decided, so I found out that they took my last COVID-19 warrior, or the one before last, the COVID-19 warrior video. They took it down. And that just got all over me. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not switching my content. They can cancel my channel if they want. And then my husband, you know, he's my good angel. He gets on the other side. He's like, well, you have a good outreach on that channel. And, maybe just think of a way to work around it. So what I decided to do was go live from 8:30 to 9:30 for tea time. And then we'll stop. I'll start a new stream. I will be off YouTube. YouTube, if you want to come over and join us on Rumble, that's where you'll have to go to see the COVID-19 warrior, because that will no longer be posted to YouTube. And I hate that because we get a lot of good input from YouTube and it's a funny bunch. But, if they're going to censor us, you guys kind of got to tell them that you don't like it with your feet and go someplace else. So that's kind of where we're at. So we're going to start with tea time. And I wanted to show you guys. I never expected when I would do podcasts first of all, I never expected I would do podcasts. Secondly, I never expected to get gifts. And I guess, being a single mom, you just get used to not getting gifts. You buy gifts for your kids and your kids don't have any money. So they make you something little, but you just don't get a lot of gifts. And this week I got two. And the one person I know, and that one person sent me this. This is my publisher friend, John Hale, sent me this book. It says, I'm slow but sincere. In this case, however, I am way ahead of getting this to you for Christmas 2023. And I was not expecting a Christmas present at all. But he sent me this book. It's called Life is Messy. Thank you very much, John. I love it. Pope Smokes is all right. I'll stay here. I think I'm caught up on world events. Yeah, we're going to hit world events at 9:30 or 9:40. But this is by Matthew Kelly, and I kind of just thumbed through it, and I can tell this is going to be really good. Of course, when a publisher friend picks you out a book, it's probably going to be really good. And then today, I was not expecting this, so somebody better own up. I'm thinking it's got to be somebody that that knows me well enough to have my address. So of course my publisher does. But this one, what the heck? This one came with no name. That makes me crazy. So if you sent me this book, The Chosen, book 1, I Have Called You by Name. I have not read this. I don't know. I mean, I've seen the show. But this is by Jerry B. Jenkins, a great author. And I really like Jerry B. Jenkins' writing style. So this is going to be really good to read. I haven't started it. I just got it today, but how sweet. I was just blown away. And of course it was sent from Amazon, so there's no writing in it. So I'm just left to ponder and I'm thinking, okay, who watches me that actually has my physical address? Either that or I have a very kind stalker, in which case, thank you either way, because I'm super excited about getting 2 books. I love to read. And so that was kind of my week. I got sick. So last week, when I get started on something, I don't know if you guys are like this, but when I get started on something, I have to get it done. I have to keep going until I get it done. Or some part of it will be left undone. And then 2 years later, I'll be thinking, man, I should still touch up that little spot, right? And it's all those little, what does Don call it? The fuss work of anything in life. it, especially for me, is always dreaded. Like when you're packing, right? And you've got all the knick-knacky things that don't really fit into a category, or that box is already taped up or whatever. And so you'll end up with a couple of boxes. So funny. You never know. I never know what I'm going to talk about on this show. I just kind of wait for God to give me some inspiration. But you'll have those last few boxes that have got like your coffee pot, a screwdriver, tampons, whatever, right? It's all, I mean, I imagine you guys don't have that, but um anyway, it's just all this knick-knacky stuff, and you don't want to pack the box, you don't want to unpack the box, right? And that box will sit until you absolutely have to have something out of the box. And that's how it is with me with doing tasks. I try to do them, and when I start on one, I try to finish it. And I will vary things. So I've been working on, you guys can kind of see, if you remember the last time we went through the RV, everything was that wood color. And you can see now I've got white curtains up. I've got those cabinets over my head painted white. Um, that the booth was that weird, like 70s, 80s trailer park. And don't say that in being hateful. I lived in a trailer in the 80s. Um, like that Navajo print. That's what the booth was. And so I got the seats recovered with navy slip covers, and I got almost all the cabinets on this side painted and the hardware on, and I was just pushing so hard. And there were a couple of days where it was a little cold, so I couldn't open up all the windows. And I thought, oh, it'll be fine if I just open up like the hatch fan thing in the ceiling, if you're familiar with an RV. And so I opened that, and I was working on painting in the booth corner, so I'm right over these fumes, and I'm using bin shellac primer. I love that stuff. And the color is coming out so well that I'm just going to put a polyacrylic over it. I got to turn my heater down. I'm hot. I'm just going to put a polyacrylic over it. And so apparently I inhaled too much of that stuff with not enough ventilation. And by the time I got off of my Friday night COVID-19 warrior stream, I had a pounding migraine. I just felt terrible. Well, the RV's not moving. It would only get me if it was, I mean, it's up on jacks and stuff. So are you thinking like it moves around a lot when you're walking? It doesn't. Like if we go out on the boat, we've got a Tritune. If we go out on the boat, I have to absolutely take Dramamine like an hour before we go out, and then a couple hours later I have to kind of stay on top of it. But yeah, so I guess that stuff's probably not good for you. And so I was down with the migraine Friday night, had the headache all through the night, which usually I don't. Usually if I can get to sleep, I feel better, but it didn't work. I guess because it, toxic chemicals, not just your typical migraine. So that broke on Tuesday finally. I was this close to going to the ER. Oh, no, 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 not moving in the RV. I would be so sick. I couldn't do it. I'm going to get car sick in a car unless I take something or I'm driving. Those are the only two ways to avoid it. Isn't that crazy? I'm 52 years old, and my daughter's, I don't know, she's 20 something. I can't remember. I've got 3 and 5 grandkids. I can't keep it straight. But, she still gets car sick. Every time they come down to see us, the kids puke all over themselves. So that's the lovely thing I've passed on to my child. I don't think the boys are bothered by it, though. So there's that. But anyway, I was thinking about that this week, about how I'm so driven to finish the task because I so hate, moving on to the next thing and not finishing that. Weed helps migraines. I have some Delta 8 CBD, and I've got to figure out like the dose to take on that, because it's from hemp, but I can't remember how much it tells you to take, but there's no way if I took that much, I would be an idiot for days. And so I tried like 4 drops, and then the next day I was having trouble with my memory. And I almost tried it with I just hate having that, like where I can't think of what I want to say, or I'm talking and I lose track of what I'm saying. So I almost tried it because I was taking stuff for nausea because I get really stomach sick with a migraine. And I thought, man, maybe I'll add a drop of that to it, but I was kind of nervous to do it, so I didn't. I could not like smoke weed ever because of my lungs, for one thing. And because of the gummy story I told last week or week before, and we'll just leave it at that. I was really sick when that happened, though, when we ate the gummies because we both had this horrible stomach flu and a funeral to go to, and we couldn't get out of the bathroom. Um, so anyway, I was thinking about that, where you've got this task to do, and there's the little details, to make it right. And I thought that about life. I thought, we've gotten so used to this multitasking where we've got several things going and you do them all passably well, right? Hold on a second, let me turn this off. Um, you do them all passably well, but we don't do them with excellence, right? So Don was always shocked by how many things I could do at one time. So I can talk on the phone, load or unload the dishwasher, multiple tasks at once. And Don can't talk and do something at this. He really can't. Like if I have to get ready in a different bathroom for church because if Don has me to talk to, he can't move. It's like if his mouth is engaged, he's paralyzed. So so he'll be standing there in his underwear, and needing to wash his hair and get ready, and he can't do it because we're having some conversation about something. So I have to get ready in another bathroom. Um, but anyway, I wondered about, in our spiritual lives, how many of us are multitasking it? How many of us are just, kind of going through the motions, you pray over a meal or whatever, um, and that's it. You're not really giving any quality time to it. And I wanted to encourage you guys in that because we all do it. Not encourage you to keep doing it, but encourage you in the regard that um, you can't build a relationship with anybody, especially God, if you're just, pardon my language, half-assing it. You just can't. It's a relationship. You have to pour into it. You have to, and I know it's hard. It seems really hard at first. It's a thing that it's kind of like meditation. It takes practice. Um, it's hard at first because you feel like all the hello, my friend. I was just telling them about the book you sent. Um, if that's John Hale, I'm not sure. If not, welcome to you either way. Um, but I was thinking about that. I lost my track now. See, I shouldn't have stopped. About having a relationship with God. At first, it seems like the conversation is all one way. And I know that because I have a pre near death experience life and a post near death experience life. And it's interesting because, I was thinking about hard times and all of the things that are going on in the world. The world is just nuts. Um, and I thought it's really easy to lose heart and think, God has just washed his hands of us and this whole thing is out of control. And if he cared, he'd do something. And, the fact is that he obviously cared because he made you and he put you here in this time. And that's how he does things through you. And so anyway, I just was thinking about that, how much concerted effort do we really give to just like having regular conversation with God, not God, thank you for this. And yes, that's important. And I need this and I need that. And, so and so's sick. And could you please help them? I mean, really trying to develop a relationship. And it's hard to do because it feels weird and because it feels one-sided when you first start. And part of I think what helps me is just getting quiet. Find a place. For some reason, I think because I've been right in the presence of God and had that light around me, the easiest way for me to connect God is to connect to God is to get where the sun is shining on me. And how you can kind of close your eyes and you can still see that orange through your eyelids. Because to me, that feels the closest to what it felt like to be right there with God. And I was thinking, that seems to be the best way for me to be able to connect, to just get there and just close my eyes. And so I think what a lot of people find with prayer is the same thing that people complain about with meditation is you're there and you're trying to focus on God, right? So you're there and you're like, um, Lord, I just want to be here with you. Oh man, I got to remember to order groceries. I think Don said he needed milk. Uh, ah, then you go back to it, and this goes on, and like every second there's a thought, and it gets frustrating. Either that, or you're super comfortable and you fall asleep. Those are the 2 pitfalls I fall into. You start angsting about your day or your life or whatever, and instead of it being this it becomes this additional frustration, right? Um, and I want you to know that happens to me too. It's not just you. And here I've been, physically close to God, and it happens to me. So you're not abnormal in any way because of that. Hold on a second. I gotta fix this. Uh, yeah, there we go. We're good. Um, so my thought is, the thing that I do when that happens to me. So if I'm there and I'm just trying to be quiet and and connect with God. And it's I wish I had a better way to explain it. You know how that you get into that space, like right before you fall asleep. Have you ever noticed it? Try to notice it if you haven't noticed it. When you lay down to go to sleep at night, if you do that ever with the TV on, like maybe you lie down on the couch and somebody's still up watching TV or you're watching TV. And you'll notice as you start to drift off to sleep, you can't hear the TV anymore, even though it's on. That's the space, right? So you gotta kinda get in that's kind of that trance-like meditative state, um, where you're very relaxed, but when you do it when you're not trying to fall asleep, you have to not fall asleep. So that's why I always do it sitting up because I'm not gonna fall asleep sitting straight up. Um, and you get into that space, and that's the space where I can hear God. And if on the way there, I have these little thoughts and anxieties and things that are breaking through, what I do is I just pretend each one is a balloon with helium in it. And when that thought comes about the grocery store or a phone call I need to make, I'm just like, I don't chastise myself for it or anything, or I don't let it throw me off. I just let that go like a helium balloon. And when you first start out, that's all you're going to be doing is letting go of helium balloons. But once you'll get better and better and better at finding that, like I said, it's a different brainwave state. That's why it feels like trance-like. You know how when you're driving and you get to where you're going and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't remember half of that trip." That's a trance-like state that we all go into every day, all the time. Um, HJS, a clergyman once asked Mother Teresa how to deepen his spiritual life. She replied simply, "Start when you wake up and say, 'Good morning, Jesus.'" Yeah, I agree. And that's biblical. In the Bible, it talks about breathing your prayer in. When you take a breath in, you're praying. When you breathe out, you're praying to have this connection to God. So it's not, I grew up Catholic, and so, we had a lot of rote prayers, and that never felt connected to me. And I know a lot of Catholics for whom that does feel connection, and that may have just been immaturity because I was a child. Um, but for me, I kinda have to get in that space first. And, it's getting relaxed, it's turning everything off, turning off all the distractions. That's really hard for people. I know people, like, will leave the house without their cell phone and turn around and go back. They're only gonna run to Walmart or whatever, and they'll run back and get their phone, and I don't. I'm like, "Oh, the world's not gonna burn to the ground." Well, I mean, it might at this stage, but there's nothing my phone would help me do about it, right? And I'd rather not know anyway. Um we have to be able to just, I mean, if you can just take 20 minutes, and I know it seems like a lot of time and you're super busy and you may have to get up a little bit earlier, stay up a little bit later, or, take your break out in your car, move your car to the end of the parking lot so you're not worrying your coworkers are going to walk out and see you, and think you're weird. Um, but you really do need that downtime to connect and relax, and otherwise you're just running on empty. And especially, I think it's true of women. Women, we have somebody explained this to me one time, and I can't remember who it was, or maybe I read it somewhere, but it was a talk on the difference between men and women, and it said that men have as far as energy and the reserve you have for things, men have a different bucket of reserve for everything, right? So, here's the bucket for work, and here's the bucket for, getting stuff done around the house, and here's the bucket for watching sports, and here's the bucket for, your sexual energy and all this stuff. And and if a man has a really hard week at work, that bucket gets depleted, but the energy for sexual stuff doesn't. That bucket's just fine because that's all that bucket's for. Women, we have 1 bucket. That's it, and this is so true. And I don't know of a lot of women I don't know of any women this isn't true for. So if the kids are overwhelming and work's overwhelming and the house is overwhelming and you're not getting anything spiritual. Let me turn us up just a little bit. I feel like we're super quiet. Um, you're not you're not getting those buckets refilled or that bucket refilled. Pretty soon you have no sexual energy, right? So you don't feel this um just normal sexual urges rise up in you, and you don't want to have this relationship with your husband because your bucket is empty. So husbands, tip for you, um, vacuuming and doing dishes and laundry is great foreplay. And I say this not to be crass or anything. Marriage is a sacred thing, and we need to be, we need to be pouring our energy into it, or it will just kind of dissolve, especially when you've got kids. It's real easy to let the kids become the center of your universe, and your marriage should be the center of your universe because that teaches your kids how to be married. They are not the center of the universe. Everything doesn't revolve around them, nor should it. You need to be able to have a date night. You need to be able, when your husband or wife comes home, to say to your kids, "You're going to have to give us 10 minutes. Mom or dad just got home, and we need to have some adult time." And just send them away and just have some time to, talk to each other. It doesn't all have to be poured out into the kids. Give your kids a bedtime. Good night. What the heck? I'm amazed at the amount of children who don't have bedtimes. They're up to 11 or 12. I mean, little kids. Um, and I think people just, or, they just, I don't know, maybe they don't know about that. But it's important that your kids have a set bedtime and that it's well before yours and your spouse's, so that you have some time together in the evening to unwind. Um, I mean, they'll buck you at first, especially if they've never had one, but you're the parent and you're in charge. Make it happen. It will do wonders for your mental health. Get up a little bit ahead of your kids. So the first thing that you're greeted with in the morning isn't somebody needing something. Have just a little bit of quiet time for yourself to get your head on straight, get a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is you need. And, I don't know, I just never liked having that first thing being, a baby crying or, a little one tugging me out of bed for food or whatever, it's good advice. Um, Pope Smoke says, "I don't think I could get that relaxed. I have to wear earplugs when I go to bed." Don wears earplugs a lot, not at bedtime. Um, I always have to have a little bit of noise going to get to sleep because I have such bad tinnitus. But and it's weird because I used to need white noise, and now white noise just drives me bananas. But you can do it. It just takes practice. You kind of have to do some deep breathing in through your nose, for 5, hold it for 5, out for 5. You can get yourself into that state. You just have never done it. You don't think you can do it. Start with Pope Smokes. Do you ever like sit on the couch or sit in the recliner and doze off? Try to notice, try to be more mindful and notice when this point comes. Because I think if you're mindful, you'll be able to catch it. Notice when the point comes where you're like, oh, the TV's still on. I didn't hear it for a minute. That's the spot you're looking for. It may take some practice to find it, but if you can get there, it really, really helps that having that quiet time with God, getting into that space. I'm just trying to help you to identify the space. So if you, and that's, to me, that's the easy, most people can identify with that sensation of, the TV will get louder or something and it'll startle you and you'll be like, oh, for a minute there, I didn't hear the TV. So that's kind of that space you're looking for. Jess Wig, hi, sweetheart. Definitely need to hear thunderstorm music. There you go. I do like good storm music. You can really hear it out here in the RV. This has been the rainiest winter ever, and it'll beat this roof to death. It's so loud. AJ said, "This is true. A lot of my kids' friends are up all night. They even miss school." Yeah, and when my kids were younger, my kids weren't allowed to have video games. I don't think they had them until my oldest was in high school, so everybody else was middle school or closer. But their friends had it and stuff. But I would take their electronic devices. I would take the cord, not the whole box, just the cord. Because that stuff is so addictive. They cannot turn off their phones. If someone texts them at 2 a.m., they're going to answer. And I just my kids didn't have phones until they could drive. They just weren't allowed to have them. But times are different now. My kids are in their mid-20s. But yeah, I see so many kids, like, Don and I will be out on a date night or something and be out extra late. Maybe we went to a movie, and we'll go to the grocery store And there'll be, and maybe it's a Thursday night, and there will be kids that are, 6 years old, 7, 8, in the grocery store at midnight with their parents, and I'm like, "What on earth? Why do you have these little ones out so late?" It's no wonder you see kids sick and missing so much school, um, when they're not getting good rest, they don't have a good structured schedule. I mean, I imagine it would be difficult to keep up with homework and everything else you need to do, and drag them out of bed in the morning. I hate that. Jess says, "I made my kids take children's melatonin, works like a charm." It's funny that they need something at that age. They should have plenty high melatonin levels. I mean, even as teenagers, those don't usually drop off till you're 40. I find, what's interesting, since I moved out to the RV, I find that I have this little LED light that sits behind the. Now we're turned around. Normally my back is facing the windshield, and there's a curtain that pulls around there for privacy. But now I'm in the chair that faces the cabin, or well, my back's to the cabin. But I have this little LED light, and it's got a brighter setting and a lower setting. And so I use the brighter setting when it's really gloomy and rainy out. But I use the lower setting at night, and it's much brighter upstairs, even with our lights on low. And so I noticed, out here it's winter, so it's dark by 6:30, 7 o'clock. And if I keep that dimmer light on, I notice by 8:30 or 9, I'm ready. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. And I would have never thought the light would make that much difference. And when I'm upstairs, where I guess it's probably twice as bright, but still dim, 11:30, 12, 1, 2 a.m., I'm still going. So I had no idea the light could make that much difference. AJ says, "I take my kids' stuff. If they have their phones, they're up all hours of the night." It's true. My kids know better than to fight me. She rules the house. Good for you. Jess Wig says, "I used to take melatonin until I was taking too many." It's hard to take too many melatonin. Usually, like, there's no known toxic effect of it. It can cause like weird dreams and things like that if it's too much for you. My kid's a hyperactive person like me. Very hard for either of us to fall asleep. Energizer bunnies, yeah. Don's amazing to me. If Don's working on a project like putting brakes or something on the car, first he starts so late, not all the time, but quite a bit. So there's no way that you could finish the task before it gets dark. So you know how like you're outside and you're working and it's dark, so you're done? No, no, no. I've known Don to mow the lawn at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I've watched him mow it in the pouring rain, because if he starts, he's going to finish. Um, he's worked on projects outside with, lights that he sets up until 2 or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, come in, sleep for an hour, and then go to work. Or when he's doing t-shirts, he doesn't really do it much anymore, but we've got a screen print room, and he'll do t-shirts, and he won't start them till the very last minute. So, they're due Monday, and he'll start them on Saturday. And then, he'll start them late. So he's always up all night doing t-shirts. I'm like, "Oh, I'll be so glad." And he doesn't do t-shirts much anymore, thank goodness. 40 milligrams. No, let me tell you how much I take. I take 20 milligrams of sustained release. And then I was taking 40 milligrams of immediate release, so 60 milligrams. But it's really different for every person. There's no known toxic dose. I know they were giving people who had COVID in the hospital, they were giving 40 milligrams 3 times a day. So that was a lot. But it really helped. It brought down inflammation. That's why I don't take that huge of a dose for sleep. I take that big of a dose because I have rheumatoid arthritis, and it helps with the inflammation. But I find, wherever your dose is, where you're not having nightmares, you're not groggy the next day, but you're sleeping solid, that's your dose. And it's different for every person. Pope Smoke says, "I grew up always worried I would miss something, so I used to fight to not." I did too. My mom would say that to me, "You're not going to miss anything. Go to bed." And um, I remember one time they were watching, I can't remember, some scary movie, and I couldn't sleep. And I mean, I would lay in there for just hours awake. And it's funny because I can go to sleep in like 13 minutes now. Of course, I've had a lot more practice, but I got up and I was in my doorway and I could just barely see the TV. And I've always regretted doing that because I never was really scared at night until I did that. Then I was sure that something was under. We had a captain, my brother and I both had captain's beds. And so there's that big empty space under there, and I was convinced from then on that there was something under the bed. It's interesting how many people struggle with sleep. Do you guys, take an inventory of your sleep hygiene? Are you turning things off, an hour before you go to bed? Are you limiting your exposure to computer light, to screen light? That really makes a big difference. You'd be amazed. Make your lights dim in your house. Get your kids in the habit of that winding down routine. Whatever your routine is at night. Maybe you have some tea and um, you dim your lights down as low as they'll go, without being off, and you turn your TV off, and everybody reads for a little while and then goes to bed. And it will be a big adjustment because so many of us, our kids have TVs in their rooms, and we have TVs in our rooms. I have to have a little noise to fall asleep, so I will have the TV on. But down here, it's nice because the TV is in here, and then my room is way back there, and I just put it on a timer. Otherwise, the tinnitus will keep me awake. Um, some people can run on little sleep. I'm not one of them either. Don can run. Like when I was working nights, oh gosh, I never hated my job so much as when I was working overnights. And I would work 12, so I'd work 7 to 7. And I mean, I'm telling you, it took 5 years off my life. I don't know how people do it. And Don can like be up all night working on something and, get no sleep even, and go to work and work all day and drive home. I would wreck the car and die. There's no way I could do it. And I remember being really, I had to get off nights because if I was coming home from work driving through Lexington, I would be at a red light. And if it was a long red light, there were a couple times I fell asleep. And that's just working overnight. I mean, I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, maybe 5 hours, but yeah, it was crazy. I don't know. I'm amazed on how people run on little sleep. I wonder if it catches up with them eventually, but my father-in-law was like that. He would read. That man was a prolific reader. There had to have been thousands of books in that house when he died. But he'd read a book or maybe two a week, and he only needed 2 or 3 hours of sleep. He's just, Don's just like him. Dad would be up in a tree at midnight cutting off limbs, and he lived out on the farm, so that wasn't a big deal. But yeah, it's interesting how little sleep people need. But anyway, we'd gotten on to sleep because I was talking. I'm trying to stay on point. I'm terrible at staying on point. You guys know me, because we have to stop at 9:30. Um, but I was thinking about that. How much of our life is just go, 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 go. My kids didn't have video games when they were young, and they played outside. In fact, I intentionally bought very few inside toys to force them to play outside. And I just, they slept better. They knew how to entertain themselves. They didn't need me to entertain them. I didn't ever I'm bored. Seriously, I don't ever remember, unless, Tuesday the night somewhere and I'd have one home, and that one was bored. Hey, Roy Rat. I ran on 12-hour, 7 to 7 rotating. Oh my gosh, for 20 years. Do you feel like it just took years off your life? I can't imagine. I've worked a couple rotating day nights where I would do like a Tuesday 7 at night till 7 in the morning, Wednesday 7 at night till 7 in the morning, and then Friday a day shift, and I was a mess. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not safe to take care of patients like this. And they think you're just tired, and I'm like, no, I'm telling you, my brain does not work. There's something wrong with me. You don't want me taking care of your patients. But yeah, for 20 years. My dad used to work swing like that when he worked at the McLouth Steel in Michigan. And I remember him working, a day shift. He'd work 2-day shifts, and then a night shift, and then, and then a day off, and then a night shift, a day off, 2-day shifts. It was crazy. He's still, how old is he? I'm 52. He's 76, and he's still plugging. So I don't know. That's tough. I don't know how people do it, but some people can do it. But I want you guys to focus. I want you to try and be more intentional about how you're living. Don't let hours of television eat up your life. Um, and that one's really easy to do, especially if you've got a job and you come home and you just want to veg. Make yourself, I know so many people who are adults who don't have any hobbies. None. Like, they don't read, they do you remember when let's go back in time, gather round, children. Do you remember when we had hobbies? You'd crochet, or you'd knit, or you'd sew, or, maybe you loved camping or fishing, or, um, you crafted, or, guys tinker or whatever. And how many I know so few people who have any real true hobbies that they really pursue anymore. And it's not good for you. You really need to have some downtime that is productive, but isn't work, you know what I mean? It's work you love, that sort of thing. Um, oh, yeah, I bet. Roy Rat says, "It just wrecks the body. Every month we would change. It seemed nice when I was in my 20s and early 30s. By 40, I still" yeah, I imagine it totally messed up your circadian rhythm. I have to step out with company over, folks. Just thought I'd stop by and say hi. Well, we'll be here till late. We're gonna do, the COVID-19 Warrior Show at 9:40. Um, AJ says, "I wish my kids could experience the childhood I lived," right? I lived in a small town, ran all around all day. These days, you have to watch your kids outside in the yard. I don't let them run around like I did. We lived in a small town, lived in Berea, Kentucky. And what I loved about Berea is there's a small liberal arts college there. So it's not a really big town. And my kids would get off of school and then they would all walk to the coffee shop, and they would have a tab at the coffee shop, and the coffee guy would call me and tell me I needed to come pay their tab. But they would hang out there and they could then walk to their friend's house. Um, and they were out with friends a lot, and this is, like I said, my kids are just mid-20s, so it's not been that long ago. But I committed that once I moved to a town, and we moved around so much, but I committed that once I moved and my kids started school, um, that was it. I wasn't gonna move again. They were gonna be able to start school and finish school in the same place, and it didn't quite work out that way because of the divorce, but once my oldest was in kindergarten, we were at least in the same area, and then by the time he was in 2nd grade, they were in the same schools till they graduated. Um, yes, be conscious of what you do and say. We do so many things during the day, not really thinking about it. We really do. Um, HJS says, "My wife and friends share rosary prayer weekly. I support her and know that it nourishes her. It doesn't resonate with me, sure, but I suppose any practice that helps us be present to God is fine." Sure. I mean, there's this program, and I can't remember if I did a video on it or not. It's called, is it The Shed? Something like that, and I wanna say it started over in the UK, and, there was an older guy, retired, and good night, Roy, you're at, um, comment way behind the conversation. Um, he noticed how depressed, I think he'd lost his wife, and he noticed how depressed he was and how he wasn't getting any socialization or anything, and then I think he found this place called The Shed, and I think it's called The Shed Movement, and it was just this shop that was kind of set up with tools and whatnot, and they would work on little projects, like, sometimes they would the school would need seesaws or something, that's just an example. I don't know if they did that, but they made, like, benches for the community, and it was interesting because this as they went through this little documentary of this place, oh my goodness, it makes me smile to log on and see you streaming live. "Hey, lady, be good." Um, the he said, "Men don't talk face to face, they talk side by side." And it was just a really interesting, um, perspective on how differently we communicate, because women sit down and talk to each other, and he's right. And so, he said, they would hit first, it was just all retirees that would come, and they had people that were, starting to have some dementia, and they got better just by being around people and having something productive and directed to do. And, they could work on whatever they wanted, and just it just grew and grew and grew. So it's all over the UK, and now it's in the United States. And now, they welcome families and younger men, and I kinda wish it had just stayed for men, um, because I think men are just being pushed out of society. It really breaks my heart. Everything that is masculine is now bad, and everything, every kind of fraternity sort of thing, not I don't mean college fraternity, but that fellowship sort of thing that men have. No, you're not. It's just sometimes you hit enter and it doesn't go, and so you hit enter a couple times and then it goes 10 times. Um, I feel like I feel like, we're robbing men until they have nothing left, and a lot is required of men. And so I don't know, I feel like they're really a marginalized community, and I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me and say that's terrible, but it's not. It's true. You can't even God forbid you're a white man, you can't complain about anything, you know? And I'm like, "Whoa, we're all people. Everybody's got their struggle." And I just feel like they've been so marginalized, and everybody thinks, "Oh, you're so privileged and how dare you complain?" And I'm like, the fact is we're all human and everybody has struggles and everybody has needs for fellowship and compassion and empathy. And I just love this idea of the shed where these guys got together and just built things. And so I kind of didn't like that, you know, I mean, I could see like you got a day a month and you can bring your family in and show them what you do, but I didn't like the idea of, women getting in and taking over. Um, because I feel like men need their space and we do too. But anyway, they've got a little documentary on YouTube. I can't remember if it's called The Shed, but it's just to hear these men talk about how lost they were. So many of them, had lost their wives, and how they didn't know how to really instigate socialization because their wives handled that. Their wife would say, "We're going over to so and so's for dinner on Friday night," and they were never the people that initiated that, and so they just kind of gave up because they didn't know how to socialize without their wives. They didn't really know how to initiate socialization. They didn't want people to feel sorry for him. They didn't want to feel like, oh, he's the poor guy whose wife died and everybody's feeling sorry for him. They wanted to be productive. They didn't necessarily want to, sit and jaw over coffee, but they wanted to feel like they were doing something important, and everybody needs that. And so I just was really touched by that and watching these guys, who had given up hope. So many of them were suicidal, and they talked about how the shed changed their lives. And I have to see, let me see if I can find it because it just is the sweetest thing. And I love that, men saw this need and moved on it. Hold on, the shed. Uh, should have just taken you with me. It's not the shed. What's it called? I'll have to see if I can find that link for you guys. But it's just, of course, I'd probably get another strike for talking about it. Carpentry program for retired men. Okay, I'll have to find it later. I can't find it. I could have sworn that's what it was called. But anyway, I thought it was really heartening to see these people see a need in the community, set up a location where they could do it. They got tools and things like that. And now they have a grant program where, if you want to start a program in your area, there are grants to be able to do it, to help with the tools and things like that. So I'll find out some more information on that for you guys. Check out Jordan Peterson, Revalue of Men. I really like Jordan Peterson. I do watch quite a bit of his stuff. Um, yeah, once you break down men in their, I think men have an innate desire to be protectors and providers. And once you start stripping all of that away, your chances of having good families really, really go down. And then there's the downfall of society, and there's female issues with that too. HJS says the shed idea is part of an Escape to the Country UK episode. It included repairing things from around the community for free. Very cool. I guess that's not the name of it. I'll have to see if I can find out what it is. What else would it be? It's not the garage, the shed, the workshop. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Um, AJ says, be conscious of what you do and say. We do so many things during the day, not really thinking about. Yeah, I do. Don always puts, like when he's working, he puts earplugs in. And generally, but the work he's doing could be damaging to his ears. but it's like if he's even doing a project around the house, the first thing he does is put his earplugs in, and I think he gets all up in his head when he's working that way. And I'm totally different. I turn on a podcast. So, doing all this painting, and AJ, do you see behind me? I'm painting the inside of the RV. I've got, if I duck my head, you can see that I've got my hardware up. Remember those cabinets were wood, and they're still wood, but, well, manufactured wood. It's pitiful. But I got them painted white. I think have most of the kitchen done. There's just a little bit in the booth that I've got to do. And I got my seat covers, my cushions in the booth are recovered. So as soon as I get this part of the cabin done, I've got two little cabinets, and then I've got just a little spot on these, and I need to put the hardware in the living room. But once I get that all done, I'll give you guys a tour. Once I get the main part done, the bathroom will be spring before we can start it. No, I didn't start early. So what I did was I decided to move Tea Time and COVID-19 Warrior to the same night. So what I'm doing is 8:30 to 9:30 is Tea Time. The reason I did this was because my video before last, where I did COVID-19 Warrior and I streamed it to YouTube as well, they took it down and I got a strike. And so I was really mad about it. And why are you living in an RV? Where have you been? Don found termite damage, and so Don started tearing up the walls, and there's a bunch of dust that goes along with that, and I can't, with my allergies, I can't do it. And plus he's got everything torn up and moved into the kitchen, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, this is a nightmare. So I moved down here while he's working on it, and he's working slow on it because his job that he works during the day is 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and he works outside the whole time, and it's been super cold. But I'm just in the driveway. We're still together. Don't worry. We just had dinner together. So what I did was I moved Tea Time 8:30 to 9:30. At 9:30 we'll stop. I was thinking I would just cut off YouTube, but if I do that, then I've got to go in and edit the video and make it 2 videos, and I hate editing. And then it takes forever to upload it. So what I'm going to do is we'll stop at 9:30, which is here in 11 minutes. And everybody that's on YouTube, I encourage you to come over to Rumble. Let me get the link for you. How do I do that? Do I just go to my channel? Hold on. Give me one little second here. I encourage you to come over to Rumble because I cannot do COVID-19 Warrior. I had to take last week's COVID-19 Warrior video down off Rumble so I didn't get a second strike. I mean, they're suck egg dogs over there. Let me find my channel here. I think it's just Penny Whitbroat, all one word. But it says COVID-19 Warrior when you go to the channel. I couldn't figure out how to set up channels when I came to Rumble. It's not very straightforward. Okay, here we go. I'm putting this. Oh, can you guys even see that? Hey guys, if you're in chat and you're on YouTube, can you see the Rumble chat? I'm putting it in this chat. I don't know if it'll go or not. Can't post messages to some channels. That's where we'll be at 8:40. Or no, I'm sorry, 9:40. So at 9:30 we'll stop. 9:40 we'll head over there. And then we'll be there doing COVID-19 Warrior, covering current events and other related nonsense. And then I don't need to put it on Rumble because you guys are here, but I'll put it here anyway in case it shows up on the screen. I imagine we'll get maybe some of Salty's folks will come over at 9:40. That was so funny last week. I was amazed at how many came over. That was really, really fun. But anyway, so let me round out. It'll be a little touch and go until we get kind of my schedule sorted out here with doing it all on the same night. It makes it a little harder to compartmentalize the 2 shows, but we're going to practice and get there. But I wanted to encourage you guys to do that. I really want you to find, even if it's only 10 minutes a day, and I promise the first 20 times you do it, just expect that it's going to feel like 10 minutes of wasted time. That's okay. That's part of it. You're training your brain and your body. You've got this vasovagal nerve that runs from your brainstem, pardon my language, to your butthole. It innervates all the organs in your body. It's in charge of catecholamines and all kinds of different chemical releases that they trigger fight or flight, or they can trigger you to calm down. And most of us are so out of tune with our bodies that we don't even realize that anymore. Why is that not going? Okay, well, that might go up 10 times. Um, and we need to get back in touch with that. And the easiest way to start doing that is by sitting down, getting quiet. Don't get in a position where you're going to fall asleep. Closing your eyes and concentrating on breathing. 5, you know, deep breath into the count of 5. Hold. And I know this sounds silly and you've heard it a million times. I really want you to try it. I'm really trying to move us along in our spiritual growth. And so we have to do the exercises to do it, don't we? And so, in for a count of 5, hold for 5, and then out for 5. And the reason the breathing is important is because that breathing triggers the vagal nerve, and that vagal nerve will put out anti-inflammatories, and it'll cause an increase in the production of your feel-good hormones, dopamine and serotonin, and it will help bring your heart rate down, and eventually, and then you'll feel a little bit more relaxed at first. You may not feel connected to God at first, and that's okay. And we'll practice trying to quiet our brains. And as you feel the thought about the appointment you've got, or your kids going to the grocery store, I need to go to the grocery store, or the fight you had with your husband or wife or whatever, just imagine that's a helium balloon and it's just letting go. And if you've got to let go of 50 helium balloons and that's all you do the whole time, don't beat yourself up. The goal is not perfection. And I know for my perfectionist, that's tough. The goal is refining through practice, right? And so we're just going to keep at it. We're going to I know you have 10 minutes in your day. To take 10 minutes if you're in your car, not driving, but if you're in your car, if you've got 10 minutes in your office before everybody gets there, just find the time. And I want you to start. Oh, I'll look at that in a second. I want you to start practicing that. Do the breathing, close your eyes, let all the intruding thoughts go. And after a while, it'll get easier and easier. You'll start getting less intruding thoughts, and you'll be able to get in that quiet state of mind easier. And once you're there, start talking and listening to God. And don't do it. Just, you'll have natural things that arise. And I always say to God, God, help me to know what to ask you for. Help me to know how to ask for your help, before I start. And then I get quiet. And then things will come out of my spirit that I wouldn't have even expected, that I didn't even realize I was having trouble with. And, God will sometimes provide comfort. Sometimes, I don't even generally get an answer, but then somehow later in the day, because I'm now learning how to pay attention, right? I'm learning to be more mindful. I'm learning to reconnect with my spirit. How many of you even feel connected to the spirit, your spirit, and the Holy Spirit in you? I would say probably most people don't really feel this strong connection, and we can get there. We just need to. Thank you so much, HJS, UK Men's Shed Association. Thank you for that. That really pleased me. Thank you so much. But we need to. We're not going to get there if we don't start working on it. And having a spiritual connection in the times like this is so important. If you're feeling overwhelmed and depressed and just like the world is going to hell in a handbasket, I really want to encourage you to do this. Don't blow it off, okay? And I want you guys to let me know how it's going. And if you're already doing this, what kind of fruit is it yielding in your life? Is it getting easier for you to connect to the Holy Spirit, to God? Is it getting easier for you to bring down your own anxiety levels and to have more inner peace? That's really important. God in the Bible says, fear not, so many times. Fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not, for I am with you. If God is for you, who could be against you? A lot of people could be against you, but does it really matter if God is for you? If you're facing persecution, does it really matter if God is for you? Because ultimately, in the end, even if it's not until death, God wins, period. And death isn't the end. This life that we're living here on earth is just a teeny little bit of our existence. The rest is so much longer. This is just a blip on the screen. Lady Be Good says, per your suggestion last week in Minnesota, it is called adult foster care. All right. And I looked into it. I may do it, but right now looking to rent my empty bedrooms to travel nurses. Smart. Hoping that goes well for me. Yeah, I know quite a few people who do like Airbnb, and they do longer term rentals. And whenever we go somewhere, we always do Airbnb. We don't stay in hotels, except for the hostel that we stayed in that I talked to you guys about. But yeah, definitely a great idea. And there are a lot of travel nurses out there. It says, Lady Be Good says, I try to do breathing exercises on the regular, but it's hard to keep it up. It's a discipline. And it's a discipline I want you to keep because your spiritual health is the most important thing in your life, period. Because if you don't have it, everything else just becomes noise, doesn't it? Think about it. Does everything in your life feel like noise? Do you feel like you're pulled in a million different directions? That's because there's nothing pouring back into you, right? You've got to have something pouring back in, and you may not have a husband who pours back in. You may have kids that are super demanding. The nature of children is to be super demanding. You have got to take care of you, because if you don't, I can promise you, because I've been there, when some big thing happens, you're going to fall flat on your face, and it's going to completely throw you for a loop. And it took that from, it took knocking me down for me to finally look up and say, okay, God, this is not working. This is not working. I can't be all things to all people. I can't do it. So I really want you guys to consider that. I think I've got all the comments. Okay, guys, I'm going to pray us out, because generally somebody will have a comment after I'm done praying at 9:40. So I don't have the live stream set up yet, because Rumble will only let me set up one live stream at a time. If you just got here, we're doing tea time from 8:30 to 9:30. And then we're going to close it down, invite everybody over to Rumble, because I can't do COVID-19 Warrior on YouTube, or they're gonna strike my account. And I don't know what horrible thing it was I said. I'm still waiting to hear. I'm like, nothing I said was inaccurate. Um, so I'll get the hold screen up for Rumble and get that all set up. And then hopefully by 9:40, I'll be able to have that all set up, and we'll be able to get started. Look at 9:40 to 9:45. And then we'll go live with COVID-19 Warrior. And we're going to see how this goes for a while, doing it all in one night. And plus, it does give me Saturday with my husband. It's been hard for us not to have, a night, other than Sunday, when he's got to get to bed early because he gets up and goes to work at 5:30. So let me pray us out. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. And thank you for all my friends that showed up for tea time. It just means the world to me. I know some of them thought they were coming for COVID-19 Warrior and they got a tea time talk instead, but that's okay. And I just want to pray for every single person here. And I want you all to know that I pray for all of you every week. You're always on my heart. And I just thank you for the whoever it was that sent the book. And thank you to my friend John, who sent Life is Messy. I'm looking forward to reading that. Thank you so much for blessing me with this group of people and my tribe on COVID-19 Warrior. I get far more than I give. And I just thank you for putting these people in my life. And most of all, I thank you for your son, Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen. All right, guys, scared about it all. Yeah, Tracy, come over to COVID-19 Warrior. It's it's pretty light. We talk about all the shenanigans, but I have a comic strip mind, so I'm able to take the sting out of quite a bit of it, and it'll help you feel a little bit better. Pope Smoke says Navy SEALs do that breathing technique, 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Yes, it is connected right to your immune system. It's not just hocus pocus talk. Some Buddhists, in response, the universal chatter and distraction is to watch the words go like birds fluttering past. Yep, they seem more and more distant and make space for quiet. That's a wonderful observation. Pope Smokes, YouTube doesn't want the truth out there. Clearly they don't. And they won't even tell me what it is I said. They're just like, the whole video, and they took it down. Unfortunately, my birds are like the Hitchcock. That is sharp wit. I love it. Okay, guys. I was just on Rumble also. Okay, I'm going to close this out. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to get the next live stream set up, and that'll be COVID-19 Warrior, and then I'll meet you all on the other side, okay? All right, let me close this out here. All right, see you guys soon. Toodles.